Hello, welcome back to another episode of Changing Room Thoughts, the podcast for anyone who has ever had a critical thought about the clothes they wear on their body. Today, before I introduce my illustrious guest, I have to give a shout out to the owner of this beautiful living room. We're recording today's episode at the Undermind art studio in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. Undermind is an innovative collective and music label whose continued growth includes recent Latin Grammy nominations and a collaboration with NYC's iconic venue, Elsewhere. I love Elsewhere, by the way. Soon, they'll launch the second issue of their magazine, Screens Don't Capture Reality, at the legendary Iconic magazine in NYC. Drawing inspiration from techno warehouse culture, Undermind encourages its community to embrace the present. The magazine will also be available across retailers in South Korea and Japan. I've had a sneak peek into the contents, and it is some serious fashion eye candy. Thank you, Henry and Undermind, without which today's episode would not be possible. Who is this hot and mysterious guest on today's episode of Changing Room Thoughts? Poshmark's head of merchandising, Chloe Baffert, has been featured in Vogue, Elle, Daily Mail for her trend predictions. And if you've had the privilege of watching any of her TikToks, you know her refreshingly honest takes from 2023's trends being 2010's references to calling out Stod's overpriced and unoriginal Cleo Pepiot dupes. Her content belies just how much the girl knows how to shop. Chloe is a bona fide e-commerce queen. Not only has she led merchandising at Poshmark, but also product management at Macy's, leading digital style strategy, and even contributed her fashion taxonomy expertise to The Yes, an AI-powered shopping platform startup that sold to Pinterest for $80 million in 2022. As a techie girl and fashion nerd, I cannot explain my delight to have Chloe join me on Changing Room Thoughts today. Welcome.
Thank you. So excited to be here. Can't wait to get into it all.
So to get us kind of comfortable and acquainted with the audience, I've seen your TikToks, but some in the audience have not. Yes. I'd love to ask you some fashion hot seat questions just to get the juices flowing.
Let's do it.
Okay, so what is your hottest fashion hot take?
Ooh, that's a good one. I would say that in terms of micro trends right now, there's a few happening, and I feel like the trend cycle is moving super fast, so it's really hard to participate in the trends.
How long do you think the trend cycle is right now?
It feels like maybe 2 to 3 months before something is so oversaturated. Speaking of which, like fishnet flats, I would say hard pass.
Are fishnet flats like kind of the same thing as like the Bottega sandal material, but flats?
Yes, definitely similar. You mean the ones with the jewels on them?
I think so.
Yeah. Exactly. It's the ones that like Kate and Alaya do. And while they're cute, I think there's just so many dupes out there, and they've had their day already. So sadly, a hard pass for me. Hot take.
Okay. Very fair. What is one trend that you would hop on?
It might be a little controversial. I just bought 2 pairs of capri pants, and
no, I'm so with you on that
excited.
one.
Like, I'm really excited for them. Have you gotten any?
So I actually had an old pair from J. Crew that I bought in like high school for like debate or something like that.
Yeah.
But they
were
like
very debate club.
Yeah, exactly. But I put them on recently when I was back at home visiting family, and I was like, wait, why do these kind of ate like
yes
what? Like with a little kitten heel and a tube top. It's very like Carrie Bradshaw, you know what I mean?
That's what I'm trying to emulate, so we'll see. I haven't tried them on yet. I'm like waiting till I feel extra confident to like try and pull them out, but I'm excited. I think it's a good trend.
I'm glad we're on the same wavelength.
Yes, me too.
I have very little suitcase space coming back from California. I'm like, no, the capris are coming with me.
Yeah, and I feel like J. Crew is such like a quintessential like capri brand too. So very on the nose.
Thanks for sharing a little bit of your style advice and expertise.
Yes.
I'd love to know a little bit more about you. Like, how did you get into fashion?
Yeah.
Like, how did you get so good at merchandising? Like all of this stuff.
Yeah. So I've always had a love for fashion ever since I honestly can remember. And that has been kind of coupled with a love for tech as well. So, growing up in the 90s, playing that fashion designer on like a Barbie CD-ROM. And then that kind of transcending into just an overall love for fashion, working in retail all throughout high school. And then really getting into merchandising by chance. I worked for a smaller boutique in LA and kind of bypassed the whole college thing. I just knew, I knew I wanted to work in fashion, and I can be an impatient person. So I was like, let's just see if I can get there without waiting out these 4 years.
Yeah.
And then managed this boutique's website, and then started out at Nasty Gal back in its heyday era, which was quite fun, and really learned the ropes of merchandising there and trend predictions. Kind of fell suit to that, working closely with designers throughout my career to give them insights into what to design into and that sort of thing. So it's been about 12 years now, but it's been an amazing, amazing journey. And merchandising is just such a special, special industry.
Yeah, I think it's such an astute observation. And especially when you're about to go into applying for college, to realize like when it is or is not for you, that takes a lot of like self-awareness and emotional maturity from a very young age.
Yeah. School was never something that I particularly loved. I like the social aspect, of course, but it wasn't something that I had my primary focus on. So to find, I think it's, such a lesson, especially as the world is evolving, that you don't have to go down the traditional path. There's so many different ways, especially if you know what you want to do. You have that autonomy, which is really great that we live in that world now.
Yeah. And I think especially fashion, unless you're going to be like a designer, which is actually quite technical.
Right.
But I think a lot of other parts of the fashion industry, from what it seems like, is you will never replace experience and just like your network. Like those are the two biggest things.
1,000%. Almost every role in my career, outside of a few, has been because of my network from other opportunities. And it's like, it really is all about, who you work with and forging those amazing connections.
So speaking of working and Poshmark and heading merchandising there, like what does that mean? Like for people who don't know what merchandising is, like what is your day-to-day?
Yeah, definitely. So merchandising can be one of two things. So it can be buying. So if you're a buyer and you're buying for a company or a store. In regards to Poshmark, and merchandising here is called site merchandising. So that's really how products are curated and appear on site and the stories that are being told through them. So a lot of like editorial curation. So day to day is we have a team to trend forecast and identifying what trends are going on currently. We look at extensive research from external resources, and then what are our shoppers buying and what are our sellers selling. Poshmark has a wealth of data, which is amazing from a merchandising perspective, because you really get those core insights into what do the shoppers want and where is our supply, and then churning that up with a storytelling angle in our trends on our platform. So what trends are we talking about, whether it's a viral aesthetic like Mob Wife, or something a little more evergreen like, Bohemian Summer, and really making sure that comes to life in a shoppable moment for the customer. We're also in charge of curating our Posh Party themes. So really amazing community events where you can share listings to parties and really get together and shop and sell your listings together. Poshmark is all about community.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing I've noticed between the different like resale options that a user has, is that Poshmark's is a lot more social.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like, for example, Depop, the interface might resemble Instagram, but it doesn't rely as much on like engagement as like Poshmark does, where Depop, oftentimes what happens is like you have an Instagram that then links to the Depop, and then that's how people discover the Depop. But Poshmark is very like in-app engagement.
Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head there. So Poshmark is, instead of outsourcing to Instagram to share your listing, you're sharing it directly on the platform, which is how you're going to get the most visibility for your listing. And it's all really social shopping. So our sellers are friends. We have like a whole community that we have really cultivated, which, to your point, sets us apart from the other secondhand players in the game, because it really makes shopping more of a social experience and, you know, brings humility to it. We hear stories from our sellers all the time that are, you know, helping to pay through college, medical bills. Like, it's really some of the most heartwarming things you'll hear.
Something else I'm kind of curious about is merchandising at like Macy's or Nasty Gal is a little bit different from merchandising on a secondhand marketplace. Does the aspect of being secondhand introduce like unique challenges to merchandising?
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say they're challenges. It's just, to your point, very different because you don't have control over the inventory, right? So it's not like you're working with the buyers and telling them to buy X, Y, and Z. So it's really about curating listings even more to serve the customer. So there's just more of a level of curation in the content than there is in a traditional retailer where the curating is done from the get-go. So this is like we're really doing all the curating here.
My guess would be a little bit more like cost efficient because like you're not having to like guess at buying inventory and then being wrong. More like you can just flip a switch on like what you show to people.
Right. Yes. We can act very fast based on trend performance. So looking at what shoppers are engaging with and seeing like, okay, it looks like, you know, that isn't what they want to buy right now, and then being able to switch it. Whereas in a traditional model, you're stuck with, you own that inventory. So you're stuck with it. And then you have to go through the whole markdown cycle and really pushing that inventory in just a traditional retail aspect. So seeding it in different campaigns on site and different emails. And I feel like that at times is more challenging because you're like, here's that same white dress again that we've got to push because we have like 800 units of it. So this gives us a little bit more freedom, and it's also nicer because it's someone's personal listing. So you're helping someone else, which is always feels good in the realm of fashion.
Yeah. Especially like not only is there the personal aspect of Poshmark, but also the big obvious one, which is the sustainability. So you guys are doing stuff around Earth Week, and obviously by nature of being secondhand, everything is inherently very sustainable. When it comes to sustainability and like trends, I think there's so much like moral dilemma discourse on TikTok. It's like, can you still be sustainable if you participate in trends, but just buy everything secondhand?
Yeah, I definitely see that very present on TikTok. And it's something that's funny because I think with TikTok, it's really given that a platform, whereas it's always been a conversation, but now it's, you know, frowned upon to engage in a trend when trends are supposed to be fun and light.
Exactly.
Like it's not serious, you know? But I think you can 100% be sustainable with trends in a few ways, right? So trends are always a resurgence of, not always, but quite often a resurgence of something from the past. So when Y2K was really, really trending, we saw a huge uptick on the platform for, you know, Coach bags, Juicy Couture. And so it's, instead of buying the new version, buy the vintage is just a really great way. And I mean, a cooler way too at that, to participate in the trend. And I think too, if you want to participate in trends and those micro trends that you can't have that are vintage, you know, buying them secondhand is of course one way to do it, and being thoughtful with your consumption. So something I always like to do as I've gotten older is not hop on every trend and really think through, you know, exactly like the mesh flats, like what's the shelf life of this and what's the cost per wear? Even if the shoe is only, you know, $50, it's like, am I really I'll probably wear this once. And so taking a beat there to say, is this trend true to my personal style and me? Or am I just going to get it because I saw 8 girls at the bar in it?
Yeah, that is such a good point. And I feel like the whole personal style triumphing over like defaulting to trends discourse is also hot on TikTok.
Yes.
But something else I think about is like sometimes, you know, is it my personal style or have I been like subliminally messaged to thinking
all the time?
Yeah.
I know.
How do you differentiate? How do you like...
It's hard. I feel like you have those moments where you're like, wait, am I losing my mind right now? Like, is this me? A real identity crisis. I always take a beat before I purchase anything, unless it's something I've been wanting for a while. So like with the capri pants, take 2 weeks and then I'm like, no, this feels like inherent to me and something that I like. And what I also like to do is look at with trends, different aspects of your style and things that you've worn in the past, right? So you wore those capri pants in high school. That's inherent to your personal style. It's not like you've never worn capris in your life. I wore them, I mean, we all wore them when we were like 8 years old, but those are nice indicators to stay true to yourself without flying off the deep end and buying like a pair of studded jeans when you've only worn florals and you're like, this isn't me.
Yeah. That's great advice. I know you have some thoughts around like building a capsule wardrobe. I've thought about this before because it's definitely the more sustainable option, cost effective, sustainable, you know, like you develop a stronger sense of personal style. Something I struggle with is like, how do you not get bored? Like, how do you?
I know. It's hard. Sometimes I feel like I wear the same thing every day. I feel like with capsule wardrobe, you can do it in a way where we're not taking away like the incredibleness of your outfit, the fun elements. We're just adding in foundational pieces. So when you're having a bit of a creative fog or, you know, in mornings where you have to wake up early, you have the building blocks to be able to wear something and put it on almost like a uniform and then integrate those pieces in your wardrobe. So I think it's all about identifying, you know, 5 to 10 pieces that are foundational elements. And I think there's ways to do it still within your personal style. So if a white t-shirt isn't for you, maybe it has an embellishment or something that still stays true to you. But ever since I've kind of adopted a little bit of a capsule wardrobe, just getting fatigued with trends, which I think consumers really are too, because it's such a rat race to keep up with the trend cycle, all the aesthetics. It's like eclectic grandpa, coastal grandma. You're like, what is going on? Like, is this real life?
I should have asked this earlier, but how do you define a capsule wardrobe?
Yeah. Again, I would say it's really investing in pieces. And by investing, I don't necessarily mean you need to buy a $100 t-shirt. It's the fabrications. So things that aren't going to one wash and you have to toss it out. And really investing in those pieces so you can have them for years to come. So a great pair of jeans, whatever those pieces are for you. If you don't wear jeans, is it, you know, a pair, a black slip skirt, something like that, that is going to transcend time and it doesn't have that expiration date, which I think is something that is 100% okay for so many aspects in your wardrobe. Those are the fun pieces, the ones with the expiration, but you need to balance it out with those that don't have an expiration date and think of it almost like an heirloom piece. So it's like when I look at this in 10 years, it's not going to be a jump scare. You're going to be like, okay, it's still relevant.
Would you say like, what would you say is like the ideal breakdown in a closet, right? Because we're both like fashion tech girls and we like to think about cost per wear and things like that, which I love. I'm like building out a spreadsheet of like,
love it
because I'm crazy, but
I love that.
When it comes to like what percentage breakdown of a closet or a wardrobe, what's like the ideal of like basics and capsule versus like the fun rotating pieces?
I would say it definitely varies for each person. If you only want to dabble in a capsule and you're very much a maximalist, you're going to over index on those maximalist pieces by nature. For me personally, I would say I'm probably 80% capsule, 20% statement, just simply for it also has to do with your lifestyle and what you do. I work, walk my dog, go to dinner, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, those
self-awareness is key.
Yeah. Self-awareness is key, but still allowing time to, participate in those statement pieces, especially for like upcoming events. I always say I have a totally different style, and I feel like people, when you go on a vacation that you've been planning, like you just, all rules go out the window. Like for shopping for that, it's a whole colorful, bright, and there's no capsule wardrobe involved in that. So I think it really depends on the person and what matters to you.
Nice. Yeah. When it comes to like the split of like basics in the wardrobe versus not, and the self-awareness, I started doing like a catalog of like I'm working on it. It's going to take a while, but I'm doing a catalog of like the things I own and the breakdown. And I took a look at all my shoes. I have 11 pairs of heels and 1 pair of sneakers.
Oh my gosh. Wait, that's wild for someone who lives in New York too.
I know, it's so stupid. I have 1 pair of sneakers. I had 1 pair of like flat ankle boots that were Docs. And I recently just bought a pair of flat, tall, like Ganni rain boots because it's been raining so much. But before I bought the rain boots, I was thinking about it. I was like, I wear my Docs and my sneakers all the time, but I have like 11 pairs of like vintage designer heels because I cannot help myself.
No, I know.
And I was thinking about it. I was like, this is insane. Like, I really need another pair of flat shoes.
I know. But it's like when push comes to shove for the purchase, it's way more fun to buy a vintage designer heel than buying a pair of Adidas. And you're like, whatever, like I'll just throw these on to walk around. Like it gives you that excitement and that adrenaline rush that makes shopping so much more fun.
Yeah. What are some, because speaking of like events that you look forward to dressing up to, and since you're like an 80% like capsule wardrobe girly, like what are you willing to spend like the 20% on?
Yes, that's a great question. So similar to you, shoes, statement shoes for sure, and bags are something that, I think is definitely worth the investment. And then I'm all about a fun statement top as well, something that really pulls at your heartstrings to pair with those, whatever boyfriend jean in your capsule wardrobe that you're wearing consistently. And, really anything within that realm where the second you see it, it's just like, oh my gosh, yes. And you don't have a doubt in your mind. I think that's how you always know that something is a great purchase, where there's no other voice coming in saying like, I don't think so.
I think I definitely identify as a little bit more of like a maximalist.
Yes.
The thing is like, maybe it's a lack of self-awareness because like I work a 9 to 5, so I have an office job. I have all these like beautiful, maybe slightly like crazy clothes that I don't know if I can wear to the office, but I can't help myself but to collect them because I'm like, it's just too beautiful. Like someone needs to appreciate this. So I would say my wardrobe is probably like 60% basics, like 40% statements.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. And I think too, your wardrobe is a collection. So you may not be able to wear those clothes now, but who's to say you can't wear them in next year? So I definitely think, I feel like there's something people always say, and it's like dress for the life that you have, not the life that you want. And I'm a firm believer against that. I'm like, dress for the life that you want.
Yes.
Let's manifest that.
Yes. Period.
Yeah.
I'm so about that.
Yeah, exactly. And those are the pieces that, have a story behind them, whether it's an amazing vintage find or something that you wanted for a really long time that you might not wear all the time, but they bring you joy. That's not a t-shirt,
It is so psychological because I think people who overthink about clothes like you and me understand this. But it's like, this is something you make a conscious decision about every day of your life.
Right.
It's literally touching your body at all times. And, with regards to like the power of manifestation and like dressing for the life that you want, like there's something very real and tangible about that, even though it might be in your head. Like, for example, mob wife, behind every trend, I think there's like a reason why like people are gravitating towards certain things. Like, what is a mob wife? A mob wife is like a dangerous woman, empowered, rich, like has a powerful husband. Like behind every trend, there's something aspirational about it.
Exactly.
And, even if I am not a mob wife,
Yeah.
if I like put on like a leopard print coat or something and I can feel that empowerment for like a
Yes.
second by proxy, like it's worth it. Like,
Oh, 100%,
yeah.
100%. It's empowering, and it's all about having different alter egos of your personal style,
Yes.
which I think makes everyone's personal style so complex and interesting, where when an aesthetic like mob wife comes along, you're like, for whatever reason, like this is speaking to me, it's like, go for it.
Are there certain alter egos that you really like? You mentioned like Vacation Chloe. Like,
Yes. Vacation Chloe is very maximalist, bright sequins, cutouts, very not my day-to-day wardrobe at all. So I really come alive with a spray tan, I would say.
ooh, Summer Chloe.
Exactly. Summer Chloe. Yeah. But it's all, I feel like all those different elements just make your wardrobe so much more fun.
There's something special about like, for example, one of my favorite things to collect, that I'm beginning to collect, I should say, is Emilio Pucci.
Oh,
Pucci
love.
for
Oh my God,
vacation.
no.
Oh, so fun.
So fun. And let me tell you, the secondhand vintage Pucci on Poshmark is incredible. Oh my gosh. It's incredible. That's where it's at, because the new retail is obviously gorgeous, but so expensive.
So expensive.
It's like in what lifetime?
Yeah.
But vintage is really well priced, and it's so beautiful. The patterns are so interesting. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Pucci is like incredible.
What else are people sleeping on Poshmark?
Ooh, okay. I would definitely say along the shoe aspect of vintage slingbacks and kitten heels is something that not even designer based, just like really cool 90s silhouettes that we have by the plentiful, as well as vintage designer handbags. So
My heart.
some really, really amazing finds, whether it's a Fendi baguette or like a more Y2K modern style. Really, really cool, amazing stuff. And then also unbranded things. So I went through a phase where I was really looking for a suede jacket, and whether it's like, it could be like a men's Western like suede jacket that is in a really beautiful fabrication and great color, awesome oversized fit. The outerwear is amazing. We always see that in the winter, especially with this past winter and over the past few years, when there's a huge like aviator bomber trend, thanks to Ms. Hailey Bieber. Poshmark's the place to find those trends.
Very cool. Yeah. And I noticed, like, I was watching your TikToks and I saw your breakdown of like how Nordstrom's has like the best designer deals and whatnot. Like, girl, you know how to shop.
I love a deal.
Yeah.
I love a deal. Yeah. And it's all about just lurking the internet. That's what I do on Poshmark all the time.
It's your job. It's your job to shop.
Exactly. It's my job. So that's the excuse. That's what I tell my husband. But I was talking to my coworker the other day, and we're like, our safe space is just like getting in bed at night and just lurking Poshmark for amazing finds, because there's so many. And, it's just, when you find a great deal and a style that you've been wanting or you didn't even know you want, is like, oh my God, it's the best.
Yeah. It is tough to like balance the impulse purchasing.
Yes.
But sometimes that's the trick with secondhand though, is like every time I've put something secondhand on my wish list, like probably like 19 out of 20 times, like I have like a 3-month wait period. I always regret it because it always gets sold.
Yes.
How do you balance, especially when it comes to secondhand? Because there's this scarcity idea of like limited quantity. How do you like balance that?
Yes, I would say I don't do a great job at it. There's a real urgency, and working at Poshmark, you see listings sell so fast and have experienced the heartbreak of losing out on something. So I think it's always good to go in with a loose plan of what you're looking for. But there's always, there's so many great products. So it's like something always comes along very quickly soon after, and you soon forget about what you lost out on. Like I couldn't even tell you something I've lost out on, because there's been so many great purchases in between.
That's true. There is always more.
Yeah.
When it comes to like finding the deals and like, I guess I kind of have two questions.
Yeah.
One is, how much time do I have before I'm like, okay, I should pull the trigger?
Yeah, I think it definitely varies for the listing. So we'll see things sell very quickly if it is a hot item and something that's super trending. So when the Stanley thermoses were like the big...
Those are on Poshmark?
Yeah, those are on Poshmark. If you guys need a water bottle. And they would sell instantly. So it really depends on the style. Yeah. Yeah, those are on Poshmark. We see some really, really cool things. You know, of course, our focus and love is women's and men's fashion from a trend perspective. But yeah, we have home, pets, electronics. There's some really amazing things.
So it kind of varies by like category. I'm so gagged that the Stanleys are like selling like hotcakes.
Yes. It's really interesting what we'll see in the data. Yeah, there was a huge push for those just a couple of months back.
What in women's fashion is like selling pretty fast?
Yeah, so we definitely see a lot of seasonal trends. So summer dresses are something that is huge for us, obviously given the seasonality of it. So brands like Rixo, Hill House, I don't know if you remember that nap dress that went super viral during the pandemic. So it's all about kind of a buy now, wear now mentality. And then our target demographic is really everyone. So Poshmark is for everyone, but definitely Gen Z and millennial women. So we'll see a lot of major moments follow suit to that. So prom dresses, which is really interesting how people shop for prom dresses. So instead of the specific silhouette, it's all by brand. So House of CB, definitely those more trend forward brands we see selling really well.
Interesting. Yeah. So it's April now and summer is in like a few months. Like people start buying summer dresses like a few months in advance.
Yes. We see people buying warm weather things, or we see people buying warm weather styles starting honestly in January. They start to trickle in. Yeah. I think a lot has to do with, you know, upcoming spring break. And really what's interesting in my time at Poshmark is the pandemic has really shifted people to buy styles earlier because there's more excitement around looking forward to travel and looking forward to events where it used to just be kind of, you know, the day to day. And now like we don't take those things for granted. So there's a lot of wardrobe planning going on there for sure.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Of course.
These are the kind of questions I have to ask you because I'm like, who else would know this besides someone who like does merchandise? Okay, thanks for sharing some of those insights. I guess one thing I'd love to discuss, lurking on at odd hours of the night, like shopping, that's such a relatable experience. How do you like, what's your shopping algorithm? Like, how do you go about it? Because like I have a way of going about it, but I'm kind of wondering like, how do you find the best deals?
Yeah, so I typically will go for a few different websites that I know are going to give me the best deals. And then I like to lurk like the last sale page to see what the returns are. So it's something I've learned within various companies I've worked for in merchandising. And it depends, of course, on the company, right? But the sale returns will typically go to the last page of sale. So it'll be like page like 19. And don't quote me, I don't know if this works for every company, but I've seen some incredible deals in there. And just like stalking for those websites that you love to shop, stalking their sale section for returns, because unless it's final sale, they're going to take it back. So that's a really great way. And then also if there's, in terms of finding the best deal on something, you know, that's full price, I love to use reverse image search and see what other retailers are selling it and then going about it that way. And of course, if I can get it secondhand, if it pops up on Poshmark, always a win-win.
I never knew that hack about like the last page of the sales section. Is it
really
usually
good.
like if they've returned it, then there's like an additional discount because it had been owned by somebody prior?
Yeah, I think some retailers do that for sure. It's more so about, you know, some retailers only do like 2 sales a year or something like that. Or, you know, you've gone through their sales section and you've missed out on some good finds. So it's more about finding those like needles in the haystack that you may have missed out on the first go around that are still heavily discounted. Yeah, it's really fun and such an adrenaline rush when you see something you're like, oh my God. Like, yeah.
I saw the Prada shoes you got from Nordstrom for $200.
Yes, that's a prime example. That was a back page purchase at like midnight, like one eye open.
How does the time of day affect your ability to like find a good deal? Is it just because there's less other people looking at the same time?
Yes. So exactly that. So I think it's less traffic. So if there's a great deal like those heels in a popular size, you're going to be like first to get them more or less. And then also, what I don't know if it's proven to be true, it's like my hunch is that they're processing the returns later at night. And so that's how it's like hitting the website at night, wherever their warehouse is. That could be debunked, but that was what I thought was, tested it a few times, and this was like 6 years ago. And that's what I thought was happening there. So then you're like first to get the return once it hits the site. Very, very sleuthy.
Yeah.
Know?
Wait, how many hours a week do you think you spend shopping? I'm not judging. I'm just curious because I'm like you really know your shit.
Yeah, I would say it definitely depends on the week. Honestly, I would probably say 10 hours maybe. Is that a lot? Like cumulatively.
It is your job.
It is my job.
Yeah.
So, doing research, of course. Yeah, I would probably say 10. And then if there's like something that I'm specifically looking for, if I have an event coming up or something, then, the fun like planning begins, and I'm sure it'll go up. But it's a hobby. People are always like, get a hobby. I'm like, no, this is my
how do I explain to you that my hobby, there was a TikTok or something. How do I explain to you my hobby is like going to get an iced coffee, going thrifting?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Thank you for all the insider info. I'm definitely going to take a look.
Yeah. Like you're going to up that weekly shopping, aren't you?
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting to hear about like the way that you shop and like your insights around shopping. Like when I shop, I've never thought to check the last sale page, but usually what I do is I just sort by, especially on secondhand sites, I sort by cheapest, like price it from low to high, in the category I want, say like handbags or something like that. But it is so much work to like go through all the things that are maybe not good quality, the things that maybe you just don't really like until you find the sweet spot between like price and style. Yes. So I really appreciate like all the tips you have around online shopping and like letting us know the insider scoop on like what's good on Poshmark.
Yeah. One other thing that's pretty cool on Poshmark too is we have live shows. So it's really amazing to be able to shop the products through a live show and find sellers that you really resonate with their style. So they'll serve up a curated assortment from their closet and sell it live. So then that way you don't have to sift through pages of listings or go through their closet. And that's just like another great curation aspect.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I guess like I've definitely seen like live shopping before. I've never participated in it. I don't know why. I think because part of me is like scared that it would be pretty like impulse purchasing or like addictive. But yeah, how are the dynamics? Like, is the sell-through rate on live shows like pretty high?
It is. A lot of the live shows are deal driven as well. So we'll have auctions that are like $3 starts. So everything in the show, all the listings will start at $3. And it's really valuable, amazing inventory. So that like gamification of shopping definitely makes people more inclined to purchase because it's such a fun activity. You can chat in the comments with other people in the show, with the seller. So it's definitely a really great way if you're a seller to sell your merchandise, and if you're a shopper to engage in like a really community driven event. And it's awesome too from a shopping perspective to be able to see the merchandise. Like I always love when a retailer has a video at Poshmark. We have listing videos, but to be able to see them presenting it in that way, you can ask questions back and forth. What's the measurement here? If there's like a small flaw in it, they're like, there's a pin size hole here. And you're like, oh, okay. Like it's not that bad.
That's
so it really, it makes it like a two-way conversation and breaks down that third wall, which is kind of rare.
That is also especially important in secondhand fashion, because when it comes to buying new clothes, right? Like when you go to like a website, there are pictures, there's the description. It's all very like cookie cutter. You know what you're getting. But when it comes to secondhand, because each piece of clothing has had a whole lifetime, I've definitely had to play the whole like, hey, can you send me a picture of the inside?
Exactly.
Okay. And then it takes them like 2 days to get back to you. And then you have to like deliberate, is it really that bad?
Exactly.
And you like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I see that the communication aspect already makes things a lot easier.
Right.
So one last like fun question, I guess, is like right now, like what are your fashion inspirations, style obsession? Who's your style inspo?
So I would say in terms of fashion inspirations, I don't have one like particular celebrity or person that I look to. I really take great inspiration. It's going to sound like kind of trite, but living in New York and having the privilege to be around people, whether you're just walking down the street, who have such incredible style. Meeting with you today is really really taking inspiration from those around me. I feel like is the best way that I get my inspiration, especially because, you know, so many trends are kind of first to market here in a sense. So being able to see them and think, do I want to hop on that? Do I not want to hop on that? Is really a fun way.
Thank you so much for being on today's
Thank you.
episode. It is such a privilege to have you on this podcast, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners are going to have a lot of valuable takeaways from today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been so much fun, and I love chatting with you.
Yeah. And if you haven't already, definitely download Poshmark and give it a try. Getting set up and getting your listings up is super easy. You can monetize your wardrobe this way. You can participate in live shows, which get you great deals or helps you push out your inventory even faster. And of course, it is a sustainable way to participate in fashion. So
Amazing. Thank you so much.
thank you so much. Bye.